So good morning, everyone. My name is Austin, and I'm here today to kind of share my story with you. I'm a husband, brother, a son, an uncle, an actor, an artist, a writer, a producer, and I also just happen to be a type 1 diabetic. Just days. Yeah, come on, get it going. It's early. Forget coffee. So just days before my 9th birthday, in 1985, I was diagnosed with diabetes, as my brother used to call it. When my parents broke the news to me, all I heard was, "No more candy." The irony was that my father just happened to own a candy store at the time. It's not joking. It's true story, which was absolutely devastating for me. But that unfortunate circumstance provided an early life lesson, and I learned to exercise my willpower at a very young age. Sugar-free chocolate butter crunch and Trident sugar-free gum were my saviors. The only other diabetic I knew was my grandmother, but she had type 2 diabetes and wasn't insulin dependent like me. She didn't have to take injections every day, just pills. Plus, she always had Entenmann's chocolate donuts in her fridge, so she wasn't really a shining example of dietary restraint. Thankfully, my parents were, and I was living in a low-sugar household already in a great community in Brooklyn, New York. And with the help of extremely supportive parents, my blood sugar levels, my diet, and my overall health were always a top priority. I was always physically active, too. I played a number of sports, including baseball, basketball, soccer, and floor hockey. If anything, my activity level increased with the onset of diabetes. Of course, my parents were always close by with apple juice or a fruit in case my blood sugar dropped. And by doing so, it taught me to be prepared and responsible. Even though I can still hear my dad's annoying voice ring in my ear. "You low? Oss, you low? You need some sugar?" Which he would shout to me in the middle of full court basketball games and baseball practice. So yeah, that was traumatic as well. But we never looked at diabetes as something that would get in the way of me pursuing my dream to be a Major League Baseball player. It was really the fact that I just wasn't good enough. I was always too slow and too small to play catcher for the New York Mets like my idol Gary Carter anyway, so with or without diabetes, it was a long shot. I was screwed. My late growth spurt didn't help either, but that's a whole nother story. Now, being around endocrinologists so much for my diabetes inspired me to want to be a pediatrician. So I went to college to be a doctor, and 4 years later, I graduated with a bachelor's degree in theater. And then 3 years after that, a master's degree in acting. So I guess my desire to be in the spotlight superseded my love of medicine. And being my own doctor-nurse was enough. My Jewish parents, grandparents, and relatives were, shall we say, disappointed not to have a doctor in the family. And so my acting career began. It's been almost 20 years, a couple of commercials, a bunch of TV shows, and a few films later, I finally came full circle when I got to play a doctor on TV. A doctor of biochemistry, that is. In CW's People's Choice Award-winning drama, Beauty and the Beast. Now this brings me to the topic of our conversation, Beauty and the Diabeast. And I think it's pretty obvious who the beauty is. So I've lived two parallel lives, the life of an actor and the life of someone living with type 1 diabetes for almost 33 years. My diversity is actually coming up in a couple of weeks, so mazel tov to me. A lot of Jewish stuff here, a lot of Jewish references. Should be in Southern Florida, not in Southern California. And even though I'm living both simultaneously, it sometimes feels like juggling two different people in one body. In movie terms or TV terms, it's like Beauty and the Beast meets Abbott and Costello meets Jekyll and Hyde, which I love those movies, by the way, so that's the reference. My career on camera has had a few challenges for managing my diabetic regimen, namely the extremely long hours. Most days are like 12 to 16 hours on a drama. A comedy is a little easier, but I always make it a point of telling a few people on set, like the producers and or assistant directors who are kind of your handlers on set, that I have diabetes. My preference that certain people know is not so much a privacy issue, but it's an assurance that there are key people that know the deal and can help if my blood sugar dips at any point. And that ultimately, the production schedule is not held up because of my circumstance. That obviously is my worst nightmare, and that's what I work against every day. When I've worked in theater, things are a lot more difficult. After all, you can't walk off the stage in the middle of the to be or not to be soliloquy in Hamlet to drink some apple juice. I have to test my blood sugar more frequently than usual to prevent something like that from happening. So 5 minutes before curtain and during every intermission or every time off stage. Or the beast will make an appearance. Even having a CGM doesn't quite solve this unique problem. I expect athletes and musicians with diabetes, or magicians, I was going to say, take similar precautions when they compete or perform. I approach it like I approach traffic in Los Angeles. I hope for the best, but expect the worst, and always leave early. The people I've worked with are often surprised when they learn that I have type 1 diabetes after months or even years of knowing me. I'm extremely proud of the fact that I haven't let diabetes get in the way of my work or my craft. Of course, it's not an exact science. My steady control and constant care didn't come without a few setbacks and stumbles. I've had my fair share of bouts with both highs and lows, and still do, even as an adult. The frequency of these reactions, though, has been reduced to less than a handful a year, partly because of my healthy lifestyle, but mainly because I've learned to trust my instincts, listen to my body, and to never think I'm smarter than my glucometer. And I try not to depend solely on my CGM, although it's tempting. When I'm not sure, I test, and so should everyone. So my wrestling match with the Diabeast is a constant battle, whether it's unexplained highs or unexpected lows. The struggle is real, and it continues. But I'm not alone in this diabetic ring. My health and well-being as diabetic has been the result of a vast support system, starting with my parents, who were with me from the beginning and have been by my side every step of the way on that learning curve. The great doctors that I've had that cared for me throughout my life, my teachers who understood my situation and didn't let it prevent them from giving me straight A minuses. I was gonna say B pluses, but A minuses is more flattering. My loving friends who affectionately refer to my condition as the beaties, and their constant concern. And last but not least, my wife, the real beauty, whose never-ending awareness of just a small part of what makes her a great partner and my best friend. She also quickly learned to deal with what she refers to as the low blood sugar monster, who comes out of hiding when my blood sugar drops and my mood and personality shift dramatically and morph into something unrecognizable and a little beastie. Now, I truly believe that having a team behind you is essential to successfully managing your diabetes. Organizations like the American Diabetes Association and the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, of which I'm an ambassador, are also part of that team. Since I was diagnosed in 1985, I've seen all this stuff with my own eyes. The leaps and strides in diabetes research has been mind-blowing. In the 1980s, I was testing my blood sugar on strips and matching them to a color chart on the bottle, waiting a minute and a half to do that. In the 90s, I was using a glucometer that took 30 seconds to read my blood sugar. In 1999, I started using an insulin pump, so I'm almost at 20 years. And since 2000, I've used a state-of-the-art glucometer that takes less than 5 seconds to get a reading, and I currently use an insulin pump that's linked to a continuous glucose monitor that uses the interstitial fluid in my body to measure my sugar levels. Also, the recently FDA-approved artificial pancreas and such advances will regulate and control blood sugar levels on their own without even finger pricks or any of the everyday worry that we go through every day. And eventually, I hope, there will be a cure. The bottom line is that diabetics everywhere are healthier today because of the advancements and innovations made by years of dedication, by research and investment by organizations and medical professionals like these. Now, conferences like these play an essential part as well to help tame the diabetes in all of us. The sense of a shared experience with fellow diabuddies is something that I cherish, and I like plays on words, and I don't really have in my normal life back home. The education and information I get from organizations like Taking Control of Your Diabetes help me do just that. As an actor, I've always been told, and I tell my students now, stay in class. You should always be learning, improving, and honing your skills as an actor. And I realized that I haven't always done that as a diabetic. In fact, I neglected it for years. I wasn't seeking out or incorporating any of the new things out there to help treat my diabetes, which ultimately fed my diabetes and allowed him to grow. I dropped the ball on that. But putting my story out there and participating in events like these has allowed me to accept my diabetes and make him just a little more beautiful. Now, a cure would solve all that, you know? And I have differing opinions on what a cure is. So to me, a cure has nothing to do with raising money. It has everything to do with not having to deal with this shit anymore. So to me, a cure means no more. No more pricking my fingers, no more constant pump management, no more CGM calibrations, no more alarms ringing through the night, no more double and triple checking that I have all my diabetic supplies before going on long trips, no more fear that my infusion set is occluded because I bumped it on the doorway, no more making sure I have granola bars before going on a hike in case my blood sugar drops in the middle of some desolate canyon trail. No more constant worry for me or my wife or my brother or my parents or my friends. Now, it's something people seem to forget, the ripple effect that diabetes has. These concerns are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for parents, wives, brothers, friends of people and kids with diabetes, but I don't have to tell you that. When I was 10 years old, I had a hypoglycemic seizure. Less than 2 years after being diagnosed, my pancreas was still producing some insulin, and my daily doses hadn't been adjusted to factor this in yet. The beast was strong that day. It's foggy, but I remember every detail of that night. My father carrying me down the stairs and trying to control my flailing arms. My panicked mother drawing up a glucagon shot while on the phone with my doctor and the 911 operator. My terrified little brother in the corner crying. The memories that are most vivid for me are those of my family and how they've been affected. You know, when I first started dating my wife, I had an extreme low blood sugar reaction. And the only thing that snapped me out of it was her tears, her worry. The diabetes is not exclusive to only us diabetics. It's easily transmittable to those around us. Even the losers in our life lose sleep over it. So I think it's very important to remember that when we're talking about kids or adults with type 1 or type 2 diabetes, we also include the communities around them that share the daily struggles. It's never ending, but hopefully one day that will change. Until that day, my way of putting a positive spin on things, I've always been an optimist, on this beastly disease, has been to advocate for and inspire kids with T1D. I was diagnosed when I was a kid, so I could relate to what each and every child I meet has gone through and will continue to go through until they find the cure. I ran my first and last half marathon in January at Walt Disney World in Orlando to raise money for T1D research this year. I'm also creating a comic book called The Kinetics, about a group of kids with disabilities and chronic conditions who are students by day and a team of superheroes by night. It'll be published later this year, and of course, one of the characters, Bobby Byers, has type 1 diabetes and turns into a teenage cyborg named Cyabetes when his body merges with his insulin pump and continuous glucose monitor. There's some comedy involved too. The message of the story is simple. It's about turning your perceived weakness into your greatest strength and achieving greatness not in spite of your challenges, but because of them. In my case, in my life, in my career, it's about the empowerment of making my beauty and my diabetes one and the same. I've lived a vibrant, healthy, full life because of my determination and my ever-present drive to be normal. My ultimate goal as a person living with type 1 diabetes has been to never let it get in the way of my dreams, or anything for that matter, and I haven't. I encourage everyone with diabetes to have the same outlook. I believe that everything happens for the best, even my diabetes, and I look at being diagnosed with diabetes as a gift. Gave me my first big obstacle to overcome, and managing it has given me the skills, structure, and motivation to succeed at anything and everything I put my mind to. I wouldn't be the actor, the husband, the man that I am today without the lessons and personal responsibility that diabetes has taught me. I'm living proof of what diabetics are capable of, and I have thrived for almost 33 years, thanks in part to technology and breakthroughs made possible by medical research. And I look forward to the next 33 years on my own journey towards health and happiness, and to see one of those breakthroughs be a cure for type 1 diabetes. Not only can I imagine in that world, but I anticipate it. And in the meantime, I can enjoy the ride while I wait. Thank you. So usually, I don't want to stop your applause, but usually when I usually speak with kids, and I'm a lot more nervous in front of adults, but I usually kind of open it up to question and answer, like kind of session. So if anyone has any questions about career, life, struggles, all that stuff, diabetes or not, I am open for questions. We could start those now, or I could do a song and a dance and leave the stage. Oh, yeah, there we go. We got a first question. Oh. Well, I don't sing, but, and I did all my dancing last night, but,
Austin, are you going to be able to run the rest of the conference?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, then let them smother you at the break.
Sure, smother me at the break. We only have 5 minutes left anyway. We got a late start, so time's out right.
You know what?
What? Thank you. Oh, we have one question. We have one question. Oh, thank you. Oh, no. Thank you. Thank you.